Today, we are going to continue our Cold War in Latin America, and we're going to talk about the Johnson administration, the Nixon administration, and then bring us into the Carter administration. So, taking over with Johnson, following the Kennedy creation of the Alliance for Progress, but obviously Kennedy's dealing with the Cuba situation. Johnson is also coming into office with an escalating situation in Vietnam. Lyndon Johnson's CIA, though, was still active in Latin America, trying to implement American policies that had begun back during the Eisenhower New Look era, using the American CIA for covert operations to support pro-American governments or to bring down leftist or Soviet supported governments. In Brazil in 1964, the CIA will back a coup that overthrows the democratically elected president there after he had restored relations with the Soviet Union that had been broken off in the early years of the Cold War. In Ecuador in 1964, the CIA will infiltrate the government and bomb right-wing agencies and churches to blame them on left-wing groups to bolster the government there. The Ecuadorian president refused to break relations with Cuba, and the CIA supported a military coup that ousted him and ultimately canceled elections there. The Johnson administration will also unveil what's known as the Johnson Doctrine. And in this Johnson Doctrine, it's essentially applying that Truman Doctrine idea to Latin America, but making the distinct argument that domestic revolutions in the Americas would not be seen as a domestic affair when the goal was to establish a communist government. So if you've got some kind of political movement that is purporting to be populist, but it's leading to a socialist or communist government, the United States is going to get involved. We do this in the Dominican Republic in 1965, when Lyndon Johnson's administration will send 33,000 troops to stop an attempted left-wing coup against the pro-American government there. Johnson will also get deeply involved in Bolivia, where the United States will remain connected through the 1970s, where the United States will back a right-wing Bolivian government, and the CIA and US Special Forces will be used to help suppress a peasant uprising. It is in Bolivia in 1967 that revolutionary Che Guevara, who supported the Castro rise to power in Cuba, would be captured and killed by Bolivian forces. Now, with the Nixon administration, we're really going to continue the same pattern that had already begun. In Chile in 1970, President Nixon will feel that a victory by left-wing Salvador Allende would give Cuba an ally in South America. So the United States worked to oppose his election. That failed, though. Allende was narrowly elected, and the U.S. would cut ties and all foreign aid to Chile, and they continued to work to discredit the Allende government with propaganda against him. Discouragement of private investments from the United States, diplomatic pressure on other nations in Latin America to oppose Allende. The CIA will be orchestrating a trucker strike in Chile in 1973 to foment protests against the Allende regime. And then finally, this culminates in 1973 in September with a military coup that ousts Allende, who would ultimately die of gunshot wounds. Now, there's a lot of historical debate as to where those gunshot wounds came from. Officially today, the Cuban government and through various trials has said that these were self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Right-wing military general Augusto Pinochet will assume the presidency in Cuba and lead to a murderous regime over the next 2 decades. In 1975, Chile will launch Operation Condor, along with other right-wing dictatorships in what is known as the Cone of South America, the southern portion of South America. This was focused on eliminating any opposition groups to their government and removing socialist and communist influences in their states. Augusto Pinochet would use this operation to violently eliminate any political opposition he faced in Chile. Cooperation between nations in the Southern Cone was shared. Information was exchanged that led to the transfer of political prisoners. And each nation also cooperated in executions of political opponents. Now, the United States did have some involvement in Operation Condor. Recently declassified documents reveal that the United States was aware of Condor and its murderous operations and actually sanctioned these operations. Now, with the rise to the presidency of Jimmy Carter in 1977, we're going to see some changes in American policies in Latin America. Carter, in his 76 election, will make human rights the center of his foreign policy programs. He says the United States should be supporting human freedom worldwide, and this includes Latin America. Carter made pledges to hold both allies and adversaries accountable for human rights violations. And this threatened to strain some of America's relationships in Latin America with some of those right-wing military dictatorships. Suspension in aid to Latin American nations accused of human rights violations would follow. So countries like Pinochet's Chile would not receive American foreign aid anymore. And then the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal zone had been in American hands since the construction of the canal in the early 20th century. But in 1964, with anti-American sentiments on the rise in Latin America because of America's handling and support of military dictatorships, riots in Panama would break out, calling for the United States to return the canal zone to the nation of Panama. Note, this is just a decade after the Suez Canal was nationalized in Egypt. So there's a pattern for this. The Carter administration will begin work on a treaty negotiation with the nation of Panama that will result in 1978 in the Panama Canal Treaty, which calls for the transfer of control of the canal to Panama by 1999. Of course, this has now happened. There was little popular support in the United States for Carter's decision, and it would actually become a line of attack that Ronald Reagan would use in their upcoming president election in 1980. That's all we got for there, and we will come back in our next video to talk about Cuba specifically for the Cold War. So that can be a Latin American country in specific that you can address either for paper 2 or for paper 3 of the IB exam. We'll see you next time.